standard form contract between we the people and one Adam Flint, police detective. In return for take-home pay of $91.70 weekly and such pensions as you may survive to enjoy, you do hereby agree to the following limitations on your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. If, let us say, on some early morning after an all-night burglary investigation, you're en route home in your car, and you come upon some significant violation of the law, you will ignore fatigue and diligently perform your duty. Maintain at your command a detailed knowledge of all appropriate statutes, codes, and ordinances, and rules of procedure and evidence, which you will be expected to apply on split-second notice and with an accuracy that will withstand the most learned courtroom debate. As a police officer, you further agree to take the most extraordinary risks on our behalf, exposing yourself constantly to physical danger and civil liability. Further, you will be expected to resist material and carnal temptations with the strength of a saint. And we further demand that you meet weakness, intolerance, lust, madness, prevarication, life and death, with the judgment and the wisdom of a Solomon. In return for which, we the people, or at least a significant number of us, do promise to hold you in perpetual suspicion and low esteem. Said customary agreement between citizenry and officer to remain in force until said officer's illness, injury, retirement, or death doth end this contract.
Do you always sneak up from behind?
Police officer.
Yes, sir. That's what it says, all right.
All right, Buster.
Wait a minute. You do me a favor and call a squad car. This lady's under arrest.
Oh, naughty, naughty Beth. She's a criminal now. Come on, give a pull. Come on, I won't bite. You know what? My leg fell asleep. Oh. Oh, my God.
There's a payphone down the street. I'll go make that call for you.
Thanks. Miss, are these yours? Are these yours?
Now, what makes you think I need a booster?
May I see your license, please?
Just call me Beth. That's all we need. Between friends.
Now, miss, let's get something straight. You're in trouble and there's nothing friendly about it. You better not make any offers you're going to be ashamed of later on when you come down off that cloud you're on. May I see your license, please?
Wouldn't it be funny if it turned out that you're the one that's in trouble?
What's this?
Well, that is how much a license costs. You did invite me to meet you in front of the courthouse, did you not?
You mean you'd rather get married than hit that silverware sale?
Well,
just give me a few minutes to go in there and testify on an arrest I made.
I see. Well, that's different.
Imagine that.
All these years, I've had the facts of life all wrong.
That's terrible.
Frank, tell Mike I'll get those depositions after lunch.
Yeah. Bye.
Here they come. Hold it, please.
You suddenly become famous for something?
Seems to me they aimed at you.
I'm Flint, the arresting officer. Haven't seen you around before.
Well, I joined the district attorney's office only a month ago. Dick Gardillo. Ricardo Gardillo, actually.
You know, with all we've got, I really can't understand him making a not guilty plea. And much less asking for a jury trial.
It looks pretty routine. You might go over my summary, see if you can testify to all these points.
I'm Jerry Brayson, the defense attorney.
I'm the prosecutor, sir, Ricardo.
Ricardo Gordillo? Yes, of course. About 3 years ago in the night law classes at Putnam College.
It's very good of you to remember, sir.
If you prosecute with as much vigor as you questioned me after those lectures, my reputation as a defense attorney will be in jeopardy. Good luck.
Anything special about this arrest? I mean, anything unusual happened?
No, just as you see it here.
Mother, I don't know whether I can go through with this.
All right. He. All persons having business before this court of general sessions come forth, state your business, and ye shall be heard. Court is now in session. Proceed.
And prosecution will further prove that said capsules recovered by arresting officer were analyzed by experts and found to contain a dangerous drug within the meaning of the vehicle code. Prosecution will further prove that upon expert examination by a police surgeon, an expert witness, that defendant exhibited certain medically well-known and scientifically well-established symptoms of hypnotic drug intoxication.
This is my Lieutenant Mike Parker, District Attorney Gardillo.
I see you're taking on the champ, huh?
Guts, huh? considering this is only my 4th fight.
Well, after you've seen this, you'll know why you drew such a big crowd. Seems your defendant here is planning to marry about 80 million bucks, huh?
Puro Chemicals?
Yeah, of the very proper Perot family. I don't think any girl who's shooting to marry that kind of money wants to be tagged as one who'd play with drugs, do you?
Is defense ready to make its opening statement?
We are, Your Honor.
Adam, I'd like to talk to you for a minute as a lieutenant. Now, did anything happen with this girl that might be misconstrued or twisted?
No.
This will be a painful day for all of us. And perhaps most painful, if you'll forgive a personal note, for myself. You see, I'm torn between a deep feeling for my client's wholesome youth and innocent embarrassment at these charges, and a profound admiration for a fine police department which gives so much in the protection of all of us. But the truth must be told. My learned, highly esteemed opponent has told us of the breakneck and headlong pursuit of this man, this young woman. And I tell you that the sum and substance of this whole episode can be expressed as simply as this. A man driven by his deep personal needs, pursuing through the empty and silent dawn streets of this city a young girl who unfortunately had attracted his unwanted and unwelcome attention. Now we will, ladies and gentlemen, prove that these charges are a framework of half-truths supported by planted evidence. The clever device of an unscrupulous officer who used his badge to cover his own transgressions when rebuffed by this young lady and interrupted in his desires by witnesses, who by his action has sullied and shamed an entire force and mocked the very oath which he once so solemnly took. Thank you very much.
You've talked to the cab driver, checked what he'll testify to.
He's outside waiting.
And the parked car she hit?
What?
You mean you overlooked that?
Isn't traffic division supposed to take care of that? I haven't even heard from them. And these small red capsules you found in the street, did you later mark them into evidence?
I did.
With the court's permission, we will ask this packet containing 3 red capsules to be marked into evidence as People's Exhibit Number 1. Now, moving to the scene of apprehension, did you at any time make any overtures toward defendant?
I did not.
Did defendant at any time seem to make any, well, what I was talking about, overtures toward you?
Objected to, Your Honor, on the grounds that this is completely speculative and, on second thought, Your Honor, I have no objections at all.
Answer the question, please.
When I asked the defendant for a license, he said something like, All you need is my first name. That's all friends should need.
And what was your response to that?
I told her not to make any offers she might later on be ashamed of.
No further questions.
Now, you stated that your attention was attracted when you saw Miss Rydecker's vehicle collide with a parked car. Now, you're certain that this accident actually occurred?
Yes.
Then I assume we'll have proof that the collision actually occurred.
If the court pleases, Detective Flint is hardly qualified to comment on what evidence prosecution intends to present.
Of course. My apologies, Counselor. I shall look forward eagerly to your presenting some evidence in addition to the officer's testimony. Now, I believe you stated on direct examination that you saw the defendant's hand fling some tiny capsules out the window.
I did not state I could see the capsules at that distance. What I said was I saw her hand emerge in a flinging gesture.
Couldn't it have been a woman driver's hand signal? Couldn't it have been a hand throwing out a piece of tissue, gum wrapper, cigarettes, piece of lint?
Well, the only items I saw on the street at that point were the capsules.
Now, before or during the pursuit, did you happen to notice that the defendant was an extremely attractive young woman?
No, I did not.
You did not. In other words, this phenomenal vision, which so quickly saw the tiny capsules, operated on a highly selective basis.
Absolutely nothing on a Rydecker girl, not even a juvenile record.
Well, we're not doing so well here either.
And then after trying to reach the registered owner of this car by phone, Hit and Run finally went out to the apartment. Found he just moved out.
That's as far as you went?
Come on, Lieutenant. We can't put a warrant out on a man because he won't complain over his car being smacked.
Frank, I want you to check with the Department of Motor Vehicles. See if they have any record of a change of address, sale of vehicle, or anything at all. I'll see you at the courthouse.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Sarge.
After the taxi driver left, you and the young lady remained alone in Central Park until the squad car finally arrived.
That's correct.
During that time, what actually transpired?
Nothing.
Nothing? Not even a word?
On several occasions, the defendant came over to my car to attempt to begin a conversation.
But you stoutly resisted.
I was sleepy. I was in no mood for chatter.
Well, now, correct me if I'm wrong, officer, but are you suggesting that the problem in the park was not your interest in Miss Rydecker, but the young lady's being completely unable to resist your charm?
I didn't say that.
Didn't you just testify that she proposed a first-name basis friendship, that she tried to start a conversation, that she tried to sit in your car? I'm surprised, based on your testimony, that it wasn't Miss Rydecker who chased you into the park.
Your Honor, despite my respect for defense counsel, I object to this as irrelevant and immaterial.
Your Honor, with equal respect for our young prosecutor, may I point out that it was on direct examination that he raised the question of Miss Rydecker's conduct. Surely I, as her counsel, should have equal right to inquire into it.
I'm afraid that you opened this can of peas, prosecutor.
Well, now, with regard to the fatal attraction you seem to have for the opposite sex, officer,
Hi, Libby.
Hi, Mike.
have you ever been bothered by this problem before?
I don't recall having stated that there ever was such a problem.
Well, how's it going?
Does Adam have to sit there and let them throw mud at him?
I think you'd feel much better if you weren't washing.
Can't you answer yes or no?
I think a more accurate answer might be, for a few months I was assigned to the vice squad. And during that assignment, yes, such things did happen.
Fine. Now, with regard to your long professional experience in this line, what would you say Miss Rydecker's motives would be if she conducted herself as you've described?
I would guess she was trying to avoid arrest.
And did you put that fact in your arrest report?
No, I didn't.
Don't police regulations require that all such facts be mentioned in the report?
Yes.
Then why didn't you?
Because she seemed like a nice girl.
No further cross-examination, Your Honor. Thank you.
You may step down.
You know that parked car you say you saw her hit? We're having trouble locating it.
Any more good news?
Does prosecution intend to call another witness? Oh, yes. Yes, Your Honor. We called Charles Pinger to the stand.
Let's hope he hasn't misplaced the cabbie. Without him, I think I doubt myself now.
Well, this sports job just gets into Central Park. Then this blue sedan forces it over to the curb. So I drove in to see what was going on.
Fine. Now tell us what was happening.
Well, I can't say for sure.
Well, isn't it a fact that Detective Flint was in process of making an arrest?
Well, that's what he told me.
And isn't it a fact that Detective Flint immediately asked you to telephone for a squad car?
Well, yes, but I figured that maybe this was for the benefit of this doll that he just pulled over.
No further questions.
Defense feels it requires no cross-examination.
Is that your idea of a witness for our side?
Do you think I'd bring him in without talking to him? He told a different story in my office.
Then he's been paid off. And I've been put on trial. Still want to marry a cop?
I'm eager. I never realized before now what a lover you must be.
Real tiger. I guess we better be getting back in. Honey, why don't you go check on that silver sale? There's no use two of us getting ulcers over this.
I often think how much each new case is like a journey through the wilderness. You expect thorns, brambles, thickets, not a well-laid-out path.
Why shouldn't the case go smoothly, Mr. Brayson? My daughter is innocent.
If I thought otherwise, madam, I wouldn't be defending her.
Well, then I don't understand the purpose of this discussion.
I understand you've been very helpful to Mr. Congdon in preparing the case.
Why is that odd? His firm has represented me for years.
Mrs. Rydecker is an intelligent, capable woman. Why shouldn't she help her daughter, sir?
Beth, if you have any qualms about the help you've been getting from your mother and her law firm, now is the time to speak up.
Mr. Brayson, My mother knows how I feel about telling the truth in this matter.
Are you satisfied with the integrity of the next witness?
Miss Hooper, I furnished you with a full copy of her interview.
Well, I've got a few questions I want to ask her myself at the afternoon recess. I want to see her before she takes the stand.
Abby changing his story. Without locating that car she hit, we could lose.
What are you getting at?
I think Brayson might go for her pleading guilty to reckless driving if we drop the rest of the charges.
I wonder when you get to that.
Can you imagine what the newspapers will do to you if the girl gets off? This way you're sure of tagging her.
Mike, I don't like to see money and high-powered talent affecting what goes on in here. I'll take my chances.
Lieutenant Parker, telephone.
Mother, we have to have a talk. Indeed we do. And high time.
I'm not going to be able to do it.
You ungrateful little fool. When I think of all the things I've done for you, all the things I've given up...
Mother! I'm not going to be your little toy doll any longer. Cry, say mama, open your eyes, shut them. Ever since I can remember, there have been ballet classes and elocution practice and the right school and the right boys. Well, you can't do that to me anymore.
Fine. That's just fine. From now on, you do as you like.
Mother, I can't do this. I feel dirty.
And how did you feel when you smiled at the nice police officer, dear? Just call me Beth. We'll be such good friends.
Mother, I went to a party. I took a pill. It made me do wild things, but I was doing them, Mother. Party. Not you.
Do you know how much alimony your father paid me? Well, it wasn't enough to live on, or do all those things for you which you now resent. Somehow I managed, and here we are, whatever we are. But make no mistake about who you are. You're not me, and I'm not you. You couldn't do for me what I did for you. Paul!
I have a habit of reading the New York papers when I'm out of town. You should have called me.
Oh, I should have called you.
We were so worried that your family might believe those lies that the police officer told against her.
They might have.
Darling, I want you to know the whole truth.
I want to know the whole truth.
It won't matter if you really love me.
The truth always matters.
Yes, of course.
It occurred to me, Counselor, that with the trial so far along, you might care to review some aspects of the case.
No. Detective Flint and I are quite pleased with the way it's going.
That was Frank. He's got a possible lead on the car.
After we're through, how are you going to tell if it's been in an accident?
Our laboratory can prove from paint scrapings if another car has hit it.
Just show us the cars that came in this week.
And when he finally caught up to me, I sat there petrified, I guess.
Now, I know you've been sitting in the witness chair for a long time. But what happened at this point is really very important.
Well, he kept asking questions like, Wasn't I afraid I'd catch cold in the backless evening gown I was wearing? Remarks like that. Then the cab driver appeared, and it was only then that he said he was a policeman. He took the cab driver aside, and then the taxi drove off. He came back to my car and said something about nosy cabbies. Then he suddenly mentioned that I'd been driving recklessly and speeding, but that he was sure that he and I could work something out.
Did he say anything about your hitting a parked car?
Well, he pointed to some old damage on the side of my car and said that he could make something out of that too if he really wanted to. But I didn't understand what he meant.
Did he threaten you in any way that you did understand?
He said policemen had ways of ruining a girl's reputation if she got too high and mighty.
No further questions. Your Honor, since the witnesses had a long and trying day...
Yes, I think a 10-minute recess might be in order.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sneaking back to here.
You weren't curious, were you? Not at all.
I don't like what you're implying.
Look, suppose we were married, and I was on a case that kept me out all night, and some character that I had arrested got our phone number and called you just to get back at me.
Look, do you trust me or don't you?
I don't know. I asked you to keep away. Evidently you couldn't.
I don't just want to hear. I was curious. And I'm curious enough to stay and hear the rest of it, too.
There are only three possibilities that explain your performance. One, you disbelieve him and you're feeding him to me piece by piece. Two, you're so afraid of the great Jerry Brayson that your mind is paralyzed. Or you're an incompetent who cheated to pass his bar exams.
Are you asking us to believe you don't remember where your car received that damage?
I think it was in a parking lot.
Oh? Did you complain to the lot proprietor?
They never admit banging up anybody's car.
Did you file an insurance claim or a police report?
No, not yet. I hate making reports.
I see. Well, back to when Detective Flint pulled you over to the side of the road. You said you were frightened then?
Yes.
Mildly frightened or quite frantic?
Terribly afraid.
Terribly afraid?
Yes.
And did you convey this fear to the taxi driver?
What?
Did you cry out to him for help? Did you indicate this terrible fear in any way?
Well, I didn't think that he could do anything against a policeman.
You just said you didn't know he was a policeman at that moment.
I don't remember now. It all happened so fast. You don't remember things very well when you were so frightened.
Which brings us back to my first question. If you were so frightened, why didn't you cry out for help from the cab driver?
Maybe because when a woman gets panicky, she doesn't think logically.
I see.
What's with him?
I don't know. He suddenly started swinging.
During transportation to the jail, did you complain to either of the squad car officers? Or at the jail, did you make any complaint to the matron? Or the medical officer who examined you? Did you appeal to him for help? Well, perhaps it's because you were exhausted. You've been laboring under this terrible strain since he first started chasing your car.
Yes, I was tired.
From a terrible fear that began when he first began pursuing you.
Oh, yes.
Dawn, the streets were empty, you were frantic.
Yes, there was no one on the street.
You drove faster and faster, trying to escape.
Terribly fast.
So actually, it was his fault that you hit the parked car rather than it being the influence of drugs, as he claimed.
Yes, I skidded around a corner and I didn't say that I did hit the parked car. I just... Well, what I'm saying is if I did, I was too scared to notice.
No further questions.
The defendant may step down.
I think you just won us a war, Counselor.
How do you do?
Noah?
Your Honor, defense is ready to call its next witness, but could I crave your indulgence for a 10-minute recess before I do so?
Recess granted.
Thank you, sir.
I asked, do you know her?
Any idea what she might testify to?
Something like the Rydecker girl's story. Except with a little more truth to it.
Thank you.
Now, as Mrs. Rydecker's attorney, of course I know about the arrangements for you to testify against Detective Flint. Now, as to the money...
Well, it's nice meeting you, Mr. Grace.
You're under subpoena. Sit down, please.
Well, one, there's no money involved. Two, I'm neither impressed or upset by shouts and threats.
And what were your motives in offering to testify?
But if you've talked to Mrs. Rydecker, my reasons should be perfectly plain. I don't particularly like what Adam Flint did to me.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoken that way to so attractive a girl. Much too attractive to be hidden away as a secretary. It strikes me that...
Maybe you can do something for me? And why don't we have dinner some night? And if I'm at all interested in a total stranger, then I probably did lead that officer on, and oh, wow. What's it going to take to convince you that I'm neither a thief, a cheat, or a liar?
I'm convinced, Miss Hooper. And was Detective Flint on duty at the time he overtook your car and stopped you?
He told me he was on his way home. He said I'd been speeding and had run through a traffic signal and thought I might be a drunk driver.
Now, were you in fact drunk, as Officer Flint said he suspected?
No. But I guess I did speed through the signal.
Did he give you a citation or take you into custody?
No.
He merely gave you a warning and left the scene.
Well, there was an attack bandit scare on, so he escorted me to my apartment.
Now, how shall I put this? Did he take you beyond the door of your apartment?
We went in for some coffee and a sandwich.
Just coffee and a sandwich?
Yes, just exactly that. I was still upset over being stopped by a man when this bandit scare was on, but he waited until I got over my nervousness.
Your Honor, if this is the substance of witness's testimony...
And did he return to your apartment?
Yes, several times.
Continue.
And did this, relationship become a warm friendship?
Yes. It was what I would call a warm friendship.
Your Honor, I see no need for any further testimony.
She told the truth. You can't change that.
I can't leave it hanging there.
Put me on the stand.
Prosecution has no questions for Miss Hooper, and instead recalls Detective Flint to the stand.
The witness may step down.
You've heard Miss Hooper's testimony.
Yes, I did. And it happened essentially as she testified.
Since I know nothing of the facts involved, suppose you put it into your own words.
I arrested Miss Rydecker because I believe she was under the influence of drugs. I did not arrest Miss Hooper because what looked like drunk driving at the time was simply an oversight of a traffic signal. I did escort Miss Hooper to her apartment, yes, because at the time she was a very frightened young lady. But I did not use my authority to force myself on her, nor did she ever once say I did. But it was bad judgment on my part to have gone into her apartment. And since it seems that I'm on trial, I want to plead guilty. Guilty to having been human enough to be aware that she was a very attractive young lady. And more than that, she was intelligent, pleasant, and I enjoyed being in her company. Enough to go back several times. I liked her. Now, the defense needn't ask if I was engaged or married at the time, because yes, I was engaged to the same young lady that I'm engaged to now. And that's precisely why I stopped seeing Miss Hooper. Because I felt that I was becoming, I guess you might say, attracted to her. And I could see she felt the same way. Now, I may go into this in a lot greater detail with my fiancé if she feels she has a right to know. But unless the court orders me, I have no intention of discussing this any further here. I happen to feel that this is a very personal matter, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with this trial.
No further questions.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Libby stayed long enough to hear you out.
Just long enough, huh?
Will the foreman of the jury please read the verdict?
Driving under the influence of dangerous drugs, not guilty. Striking unattended vehicle, not guilty. Reckless driving, guilty.
Considering the nature of the verdict, no probation investigation is required, unless defense has some objection.
We're prepared to receive sentence, Your Honor.
Will the defendant please step forward? $10 days in jail or $75 fine. Court's adjourned.
Sorry I didn't do a better job.
I lost it for you about 3 years ago.
Looks like that coffee and those sandwiches will cost you about 5 days without pay.
Well, that's fair enough. I got an education. Well, Mike, now I guess we can be pretty sure the taxi driver was paid off. We can start looking for that disappearing car.
Fine. If the three of us put in about 6 or 8 weeks on this deal, we might come up with a pretty good lead.
Now, let's see. If the city can stand a couple of homicides in that time, 2 or 3 dozen assorted robberies,
Look, Frank, all she got was a slap on the wrist. And a lot of people will say that's because there's some truth in her story.
Look, you're not going to lose any sleep worrying about this deal, are you? For every officer who gets shot, we lose 100. From heart attacks, high blood pressure, nervous breakdowns, and ulcers. By the time you retire, if you make it, your reputation will be muddied 1,000 times. It's a risk you'll have to take every time you make an arrest. You'll just have to learn to live with it, like a doctor learns to live with the risk of infection. Adam? Grab yourself something to eat. Hurry back to the office. Frank and I will be there late, going over the stuff that came in today.
Come on, forget it.
Excuse me. Mind having your post-mortem later? Do you like this pattern? It's on sale, but we only have 30 minutes. It's a third off and a year to pay. But I think you'll find yourself a bargain. I'd grab it if I were you.
I think they'll wear real well. Real well.
There are 8 million stories in the naked city. This has been one of them.
This has been a Screen Gems film presentation from Columbia Pictures. Herbert B. Leonard, executive producer.